Hello, my name is Andrea Summerell and I am the Executive Director for the Elections Division. The 2024 local government elections involve over 5.5 million electors and will be one of the biggest community events held in New South Wales in 2024. We established close to 300 pre-poll venues and around 2,200 polling places across New South Wales on election day. We also employ more than 20,000 people to assist in conducting the elections. Our webinars are intended to help registered political parties, candidates, scrutineers, and other political participants in the elections by explaining processes, procedures, and compliance obligations for the event. However, I must stress that the information we provide is not legal advice. If political participants are in doubt about any legal matters regarding the election, they should seek their own independent legal advice. I and everyone at the New South Wales Electoral Commission look forward to delivering the 2024 local government elections with transparency, integrity, fairness, and safety. I hope you find these webinars engaging, informative, and helpful.
Good morning and welcome to our candidate information webinar for the upcoming New South Wales local government elections. My name's Amber King and I'm the Manager, Nominations and Electoral Material, and today I'm joined by Gareth Robson, the Director for Election Operations. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the various lands on which we work today and the Aboriginal people participating in this webinar. I pay my respects to Elders past and present and recognise the diversity of Aboriginal peoples and their ongoing cultures and connections to the lands and waters of New South Wales. Today we will be receiving questions using slido.com. Please use slido.com and hashtag LG elections to ask any questions you may have throughout today's webinar, and we will respond to them as we go, or we may use the time that we've allocated towards the end of the webinar to answer your question. We do ask that you ask questions that are relevant to the content and not something to your individual needs. If it's an individual question that's specific to you, we do ask that you contact us through the candidate help desk, and I'll provide those details throughout the webinar so that we can respond to you about your individual inquiry. If you are having any technical difficulties throughout today's webinar, please SMS the mobile phone number on the screen for assistance. Now, our webinars are not legal advice. While the New South Wales Electoral Commission aims to support all political participants in meeting their obligations, it does not provide legal advice. Opinions expressed by the New South Wales Electoral Commission are not a substitute for the law. All political participants must satisfy themselves as to their legal position, including, where appropriate, obtaining their own legal advice from their own legal advisors. It is the responsibility of an individual participant to ensure that they comply with the laws in New South Wales. Previous webinars are available on the New South Wales Electoral Commission's website for your review. You'll also find on the website any questions that we may have asked and responses to those questions. Today's webinar will walk through the nominations and ballot paper draw process, the electoral material requirements, the registration of electoral material process, voting options, and we'll also talk about electoral integrity. This webinar will be recorded and again available to you on our website following the conduct of today's webinar. Now, I would like to touch on nominations to start us off. And as you may be aware, we have had a webinar on nomination and that's available for you on our website. In order to nominate as a candidate and have your name appear on the ballot paper for the election, prospective candidates must lodge their nomination form and their nomination deposit during the nomination period. The lodgement period for nominations commenced yesterday and will close at 12 noon, Wednesday the 14th of August 2024. Participants are able to lodge their nomination using the nomination online management system or in person at the Returning Officer's office or selected council offices. The list of venues receiving nominations and opening hours is available on our website. Candidates and parties are encouraged to lodge their nominations as soon as possible to allow time for any incomplete or incorrect nominations to be rectified prior to the close of nominations. We urge every party and candidate not to wait for the final days of the lodgement period to lodge your nomination. It is the responsibility of the candidate to ensure a fully and correctly completed nomination form and nomination deposit is received by close of nominations. Again, 12 noon, Wednesday the 14th of August 2024. No corrections or late nominations can be accepted after that time. We strongly encourage the lodgement of nominations using the Nomination Online Management System. The Nomination Online Management System verifies the enrolment of candidates and nominators. It assists in minimising the errors and ensures the compulsory fields of your nomination forms have been completed prior to lodgement. It allows nominations to be partially completed and saved for you to come back at a later time, but no later than the close of nominations. It allows parties, administrators and groups to oversee and manage the progress of each nomination and enables the nomination deposit to be paid online using Visa or MasterCard credit or debit cards.
And I thought, Amber, before we move on, something we've picked up in the early days or the early hours of lodgement, and something we spoke about at the previous nominations webinar, is a reminder that this candidate information sheet that is in your nomination form is a statutory declaration. As the CIS is a statutory declaration, it can only be witnessed by an authorised witness. Now, we have received a number of queries and a number of candidate information sheets that have not been witnessed by an authorised witness. And it's important to remember that if the CIS is not properly witnessed by 12 noon on the nomination day, the nomination will be rejected. So I'd like to emphasise that you should use a Justice of the Peace, a public notary, or a lawyer with a current practising certificate as your authorised witness. Please note that the people authorised to witness a New South Wales statutory declaration are not the same as for a Commonwealth statutory declaration. I understand when you search, that is often the first result you will see for the Commonwealth list. However, that doesn't apply in New South Wales, and it's for this reason that your CIS cannot be witnessed by members of certain professions such as accountants, Australia Post officers, medical practitioners or pharmacists, etc. Please use a Justice of the Peace, a public notary or a lawyer.
And Gareth, just while we're talking about candidate information sheets, as Gareth mentioned, we have received and had lodged a number of nominations up yesterday and through these early lodgement period. And one of the other omissions we have noticed on the candidate information sheet is there's mandatory fields on that sheet. Please ensure you have completed each of those mandatory fields, including the question if it asks if you're a member of a registered political party. You need to indicate on there nil if you are not a member of a registered political party. If that field is left blank, it is something we will be going back to the candidates and will require another candidate information sheet to be provided and for that to be re-witnessed and that statutory declaration to be recompleted.
Yeah, we'd be grateful if you did follow those instructions. We appreciate it does sound like quite a strict regime we're trying to enforce, but it's the legislation that requires that, and that's why we're requiring that of you to make sure your nomination form is in order.
Now, talking about ballot papers, and we have talked about this in the previous webinar regarding nominations, but I do just want to remind you that the ballot paper draws will be conducted from 2 p.m. Thursday the 15th of August in the Returning Officer's office. Candidate representatives, registered political parties, councils, the media or any member of the public is invited to attend the ballot paper draw. The details of the Returning Officer's office are available on the website. The New South Wales Electoral Commission's website has a demonstration video on how the ballot paper draws are conducted. For your review and/or reference, there's 2 videos available for you. There's a video for the ballot paper draw for Mayor or Councillor where there has been no groups requested, or alternatively a Councillor ballot paper draw with groups that you can review on our website. Following the ballot paper draw, the New South Wales Electoral Commission will make ballot paper templates available to assist candidates and parties in preparing their electoral material. I anticipate they'll be progressively available to you from Saturday the 17th of August.
So let's move on to electoral material, Amber. And I thought we'd start with a quick definition, and that is electoral material is anything that contains what's referred to as electoral matter. So this is regardless of whether the electoral material is tangible, it's paper, or it's in an electronic form. So it can be a paper how to vote card, a poster, or it can be material on the internet, including social media. Legislation notes that electoral material is intended, calculated, or likely to affect the result of any election or how a person votes. But practically, this means something is electoral material if it refers to the election, it refers to a candidate, or it includes a photo or video of a candidate, or if it refers to a political party. Now, during an election, this is essentially everything that you may be publishing in relation to the election. During today's webinar, we're going to provide information about various rules for electoral material. But 2 key points we know that particularly new election participants want to understand is the difference between authorisation and registration. So during the regulated election period that we're going to discuss, electoral material must be properly authorised. That is, it includes the name and other details of the person who authorised the material to be distributed in the community. Also, if your electoral material is going to be distributed on election day, so usually your how to vote cards, that electoral material must be registered with the New South Wales Electoral Commission. We're going to discuss those 2 points again, so let's begin.
So the full election timetable can be found on the New South Wales Electoral Commission website. Key dates regarding electoral material are on the screen. So the regulated period commenced yesterday, Monday the 5th of August. The registration of electoral material will commence from Wednesday the 14th of August. The display of electoral material registered for distribution on election day will be available to electors and participants to view on our website from Monday the 2nd of September. The registration of electoral material will close at 5 p.m. Friday the 6th of September, and the regulated period will end at 6 p.m. election day, Saturday the 14th of September. The regulated election period is from yesterday, as I've mentioned, up until 6 p.m. election day. The legislation provides requirement in relation to the content, type, placement and distribution of electoral material during that regulated period. However, it's important to note that councils may enforce laws and regulations regarding the size and placement of posters in their local government area. When we're talking about electoral material, it's important to note that an address means a full street address and suburb or locality that is in Australia, and at which the individual who is authorising the electoral material can usually be contacted during the day. It does not include a post office box address. In any other case, the residential address of the individual can be used. A post office box is not acceptable as the address for the printer. Now, Gareth, it's important to note, and we receive a lot of inquiries about the authoriser's address and concerns about publishing the authoriser's address on the electoral material. It is a legislative requirement that electoral material does include the authoriser's address.
It is, and we understand the concerns about publishing, for instance, your home address. The requirement is an address at which you can usually be contacted during the day. Now, you can see information about this in our candidate handbook. So, for instance, it doesn't need to be your home address. It may be if you have a campaign office location, professional advisor who is willing for you to use that address, or a workplace. We understand your concerns, however, we do require compliance with this, as Amber mentioned, legislative requirement. And we've just got a question here coming through. Does the unit number of your address, I assume, is the question, or is it just the street number? Now, the law says it's an address at which you can be contacted during the day. So if not including your unit number meant that you couldn't be contacted, then I would say in that example, and we have to look at specific examples separately and we're happy to reply further in writing, but that wouldn't seem to be enough to me to clarify in the law there.
Thanks, Gareth. Now, as noted, electoral material can be anything, including a website. You can see on the screen an example of a website, and we've provided an example to you on how a website can have the authorisation details displayed. If no amount has been paid to a social media platform, in other words, it's an ordinary post on your social media account, whether it be Facebook, Instagram or other social media platform, during the regulated period, you must include the authorisation details. The authorisation can be displayed in the About or Bio section of the Facebook or social media account, at the end of an individual post, or in the image that forms part of the post. Now again, you can see a sample here on the screen where we have provided an example on how you may choose to display the authorisation of a Facebook account.
And these examples, Amber, here's an Instagram example. These are examples for those unpaid posts that you were just talking about. So in your profile section, you put a authorisation, and for all the unpaid posts you make during the election regulated period, that covers it.
That's right, and these examples are available to you on our New South Wales Electoral Commission's website. Now Gareth, you specifically called out in this instance, we're talking about where no amount has been paid. We are going to talk about social media where you have paid money to the social media platform. So you've paid for advertising, which may include boosted content. The name and address of a person on whose instruction that material was published must be shown in each individual post or advertisement. If the content is a video or animation, it must be shown for at least 3 seconds. So I suppose that's the key differences, Gareth. You have paid or unpaid social media, and it's important to note the differences.
It is, and increasingly candidates are using social media, we understand. However, the rule we discussed about unpaid advertising or unpaid post doesn't apply. If you're paying for that advertising, or it otherwise looks like a post but you've paid to have that post distributed to many people, then you need to authorise every instance of paid advertising.
Now Gareth, we've received a question regarding social media. So do posts on community Facebook pages require your address? For example, I am announcing my candidacy for further talking points.
It's a good question. I think the question there is that your community Facebook page? So essentially it's your page and you can put the authorisation in the bio section. If you're posting electoral material on other people's Facebook accounts and other people's Facebook pages, then they would need to be authorised. I understand that you haven't paid for it, but these paid and non-paid are in relation to your account. But if you're posting on other people's account, best put an authorisation. And I think that's a good rule of thumb too, is it authorise if in doubt would be the approach I'd recommend. But we'd be happy to look at that question further if you want to provide more information in an email to the candidates help desk, and we'll get back to you about it.
Yeah. Thanks, Gareth.
So electoral material, as we've been saying, can be anything. And another area of electoral material activity by candidates is telephone calls, including automated calls that sometimes we refer to as robocalls. They too must have an authorisation. That authorisation must contain, in a clear voice spoken in English, the name and address of an individual on whose instructions that call was made. Now, this includes automated push polling, which is a form of telephone polling that attempts to sway or alter the voters' views on certain subjects, in addition to traditional automated telephone polling. So telephone calls also need to be authorised. And with telephone calls, text messages is another area we're seeing electoral material. SMS and text messages must include an authorisation. You can include it in full in the message, but it's understood that you may not have enough characters for that, so it can be in a separate second message sent immediately from the same number, or in the text message you could have a URL to a website where the authorisation appears. But please note that website must remain publicly available until the end of the regulated period.
So that's up until 6 p.m. election night.
Regarding radio and television, this is an area where federal laws apply. So if you're going to advertise on television and radio, those ads and that electoral material effectively is going to be regulated by the Australian Communications and Media Authority, which you may have heard described as ACMA. Please note that very similar rules apply. You're going to require an authorisation of any political advertising on radio or television, but you must refer to information available from ACMA's website and contact ACMA if you have any questions.
Now, Gareth, moving on to the registration of electoral material. Electoral material that will be distributed on election day, so how to vote cards, or material that may be left for collection in a place by voters on election day, must be registered with the New South Wales Electoral Commission. It is an offence for participants to distribute electoral material on election day that has not been registered by the New South Wales Electoral Commission. Electoral material can be registered on the New South Wales Electoral Commission's website. Registered electoral material will be displayed on our website for electors to view Monday 2 weeks prior to election day. We encourage participants to register electoral material early to allow electors access to view your electoral material on our website. We encourage participants to create electoral material that is accessible for electors with a disability. And we have a guide available to you to assist you in preparing accessible electoral material. And again, we have the ballot paper templates following the conduct of the ballot paper draw that you may wish to use to assist you in preparing your electoral material. The New South Wales Electoral Commission has an online system to register electoral material. The system will be available on our website from Thursday the 15th of August and will close at 5 p.m. Friday the 6th of September. Again, we recommend you lodge your material early so that we can work with you to make any corrections or amendments that may be required. The registration of electoral material will be accessible on our website following the close of nominations. The online system will allow participants to lodge, view and withdraw your electoral material if required. It will provide an oversight of the progress of your lodged electoral material. It also provides an opportunity for participants to indicate if your material is accessible, and we will make that available to electors on our website. And it also will provide an opportunity for you to upload any translation documents. So if your electoral material contains a language other than English, the system will prompt you to upload a translation. The system will send automated notifications on lodgement of your electoral material and then the progress of your electoral material. It is recommended electoral material be uploaded into the system which is of high quality so electors can view your electoral material on our website. We encourage the creation of electoral material, as I've mentioned, in accessible formats to assist electors who are blind or have low vision to access that material on our website. We have a guide to assist you in creating accessible documents on our website. Our website also contains a number of examples of how to vote cards that may assist you, or it's a template that may assist you in preparing your electoral material. Electoral material that is distributed or displayed prior to election day. So during the regulated period or the early voting period, does not need to be registered with the New South Wales Electoral Commission. Posters do not need to be registered. However, all electoral material, including posters, must meet the legislative requirements through the regulated period. Now, Gareth, those legislative requirements include the authorisation of electoral material. The following items you can see on the screen do not require the authorisation to be printed and are not required to be registered with the New South Wales Electoral Commission, even if being distributed on election day. So they're T-shirt, pens, badges, maybe balloons that may be distributed at voting centres, general political commentary on a website, a business or voting card that may promote the candidacy of a person in the election, or a letter or other card that bears the name and address of the sender that does not contain the representation of a ballot paper for use in the election event.
So clearly these are the items not requiring those things. Just to recap on pre-poll material, if a little like authorisation, if you're in doubt whether something should be authorised, best to authorise it. If you're asking, should I register material or not for during the pre-poll period, it is correct that you only need to be registered for the election day. But if you're preparing electoral material, best register it in case you do decide later that you do want to use it on the election day, because it would be an offence to distribute something that's unregistered on the election day.
That's a good point, Gareth. And we've also got a question that's come through, is who is able to register electoral material? So anybody is able to register electoral material. Once that system's available to you on the website, you're able to create an account and register the electoral material that you'll be distributing.
If the question is regarding should I as the candidate register, or parties often register material on candidates' behalf, possibly have a discussion with the people around you about who would be the best person to manage your electoral material registration.
Yeah, and if you do have questions or would like assistance in that registration process, please do not hesitate to contact the Candidate Help Desk and we can walk through that with you. But the system does allow, whether you be a candidate, the registered political party, or you may be a third-party campaigner, you're able to create the account and register your electoral material.
So having discussed authorisation and registration, and do please contact the Candidate Help Desk if you require further information on that. There are some other rules about electoral material we'd like to talk to you about. And the main one is electoral material where people are voting. And our laws apply to the distribution of electoral material at pre-poll venues before the election day and at polling places on the election day. So electoral material, including posters, cannot be distributed or displayed inside a place that people vote. Electoral material, including posters, cannot be displayed or handed out within 6 metres of the entrance to the place at which people are voting. And also, a person cannot use a loudspeaker or similar equipment so that they can be heard inside the places that people vote. So Amber, the 6 metre rule is another common query. And this first example is where we have a polling place or a pre-poll. This could be either before or on the election day. And it's a venue that has other buildings next to it. And we have a 6 metre rule that applies to the entrance. And essentially the diagram is saying that your posters have to be outside the 6 metres and your candidate and party workers must not stand inside that 6 metre zone.
That's right, Gareth. And, you know, when your candidate workers do turn up at a polling place or pre-poll venue, the polling place manager or senior office assistant will come out, introduce themselves and will explain where the 6 metres, the definition of the 6 metres to the entry of our venue.
Yep.
And you can see here we've got another example, Gareth, where the venue is a standalone venue. This might be a hall or other are the premise that has been hired for both pre-poll or election day. And again, you can see that 6 metres has been defined from the entry to a venue.
Yes, and we look at this example and it does remind us of a common place that you'll be attending and your volunteers will be attending, and that is a school. So it may be a hall inside a larger ground, and it's the building in which the people are voting that the rule does apply. However, Amber, we may communicate from the candidate help desk and put it on our website. If some schools and some shopping centres, we will have the 6 metre rule applying from the entrance due to, for instance, WHS issues, or that there's something in particular about that school, but we will communicate to the candidates involved in that election if that's the case.
Now, Gareth, any posters that are displayed within the 6 metres to the entry to a venue may be or will be removed by the New South Wales Electoral Commission.
Yeah, as Amber said, there will be a relationship there between the person managing the polling place and your candidate workers, and we hope those relationships are good and workable. And if you were inside the 6 metres, you would be asked to move back. But ultimately, if we have to keep asking for posters to be moved, we will confiscate them.
Now, we are holding a webinar. Our next webinar is for candidate workers and scrutineers. So if you do know who is going to assist you throughout the pre-poll period or even on election day with the distribution of your electoral material, or placement of those posters, we do encourage you to invite them to attend that webinar. It's specifically, around those functions so that we can explain the role of our candidate workers and explain what they are able to do so that it is a successful day.
Yeah, please do follow up and watch that webinar. We'll explain a lot more about it and hopefully provide some good tips about how you can really effectively participate during voting. And Amber, we've received a question about call flutes, as posters are commonly called, displayed outside the 6 metre rule, so thank you for picking up that point. But do they need to be registered? And no, they don't.
Yeah, so posters do not need to be registered whether they're displayed at a pre-poll venue or on election day, but they do need to meet those legislative requirements. So Gareth, we need to make sure all posters have the authorisation details, so the name and address of the authoriser, and also the printer's details, so who may have printed that poster.
We're often asked about people re-entering the polling place to collect their electoral material. So we're referring to it as recycling here, but participants are not entered to enter a place where people are voting to retrieve your how to vote cards from the bin. Election officials will not go through the bin to retrieve your how to vote material. Our advice would be that your people handing out the how to vote cards ask the electors to return them to the worker after the person's voted, and then you can get more use out of those how to vote cards.
Now, it's important to note electoral material must not contain misleading information. So electoral material must not contain voting directions that are misleading or could result in an elector voting informally. Use the name of a party in a way that is misleading. Use the word independent, suggesting an affiliation with a party. Or use voting directions contrary to the instructions on the ballot paper, or direct an elector to use ticks or crosses. The coat of arms, logos, trademarks of local councils or other public or private organisations are the property of those bodies. We recommend you seek approval from those bodies before you include them on your electoral material. The New South Wales Electoral Commission will not request that distribution of such electoral material cease. However, those bodies may decide to take legal action against persons involved with the material. Now, Gareth, we have started to receive inquiries and calls from councils regarding the use of their logos.
It's a common question and complaint from councils during local government elections whether a candidate can put the council's logos and images of the council on their how to vote material. And as Amber noted, when the councils contact us, it's to tell people not to do it. Now, of course, it's not a ground of which we can use to not register material or take any other action. So we ask, and we'd be very grateful if you didn't use council logos without permission, and we'll of course refer councils to you if they identify material of that kind.
Thanks, Gareth. Now, any allegations regarding electoral material, so whether your allegation be around unlawful electoral material or unlawful conduct of people voting, should be submitted in writing to candidates at elections.nsw.gov.au. An allegation regarding electoral material should also include a copy of that electoral material. Where that electoral material is an online electoral material, we ask that you provide the URL, whether it be to a website or a social media account, in your written your email submitted to us, so that it can be reviewed. Any other allegation of a breach of the Election Funding Act or Local Government Act should be emailed through to investigations@elections.nsw.gov.au.
And Amber, there's a question that I'm going to paraphrase, speaking of allegations. Now, all of the rules we've been speaking about are offences, so it's against the law. So when any of these things occur, if a candidate or group engaged in any of the putting misleading information on how to vote material, or candidate workers who, despite requests and directions not to put posters in the 6 metre area, or any of these rules we're speaking of, which please remember are also set out in detail in the candidate handbook, they are offences, and people may find that those matters are investigated.
And that also includes the website, social media, from now. So from the commencement of that regulated period, yesterday up until 6 p.m. on election night.
Yep.
Now, laws prohibit the display of posters on or within the premises without the consent of the owner or occupier. A premise includes any structure or building, so attaching a poster to an electricity or other utility pole without the written consent of its owner is committing an offence. When posters are displayed without the consent of the owner of the property, they may choose or may have it removed. The police or local council ranger may also remove any poster that is in breach of the law.
Certainly in the case of councils, you are not permitted to put electoral material on the premises either owned, occupied by or operated by councils. You simply cannot put electoral material in those places. So council would be able to remove that without notice to you. We couldn't talk about the display of posters without talking about power poles, which is a subject we often receive both complaints and questions about. So posters, put simply, are not to be attached to power poles. I understand in saying that we are all aware that many candidates do that. However, I just would note that Ausgrid and Essential Energy and other power providers write to us and have written to us recently about the removal of any poster, and we are going to communicate that to you, and part of that is saying it today. And of course, these companies have previously advised that they wish to and will be looking to charge candidates for the removal of posters. Of course, many candidates and political parties will be putting up electoral material at schools, and the Department of Education contacts us before elections and always asks that posters are not displayed on school premises, and part of displaying them, of course, is turning up to put them in place before 4:30 on the Friday before the election. So the school may have finished for the day, but there are still children and teachers on the premises. So the Department of Education has asked that you do not put your posters up before then.
And Gareth, I think it's important to note, if the school premises has been locked and your candidate workers do not have access to the school after that 4:30 time on Friday before the election, that the venue will be open and the school premise will be open the next morning by the polling place manager, and that's an opportunity for those posters to be displayed in the premise near the entry to the polling place, for example, a school hall. Again, we often receive complaints about people potentially climbing school fences or gaining access without permission of the Department of Education.
Yes, aside from anything, just please be safe. Not a good idea to be climbing in over increasingly tall school fences.
And where possible, we do encourage you, and again, the Department of Education asks that your candidate workers take their posters with them at the end of election day. So once 6 p.m. comes around and the polling place is closed for electors for the day, we do ask your candidate workers take any material that they may have displayed at a voting centre with them.
So this hasn't been a full list of all of the rules that apply to electoral material. We hope we've covered the subjects that we often receive questions about. Again, may I refer you to the candidate handbook, which has quite a lengthy section on electoral material and hopefully would answer any questions you have. Of course, if it doesn't, you can contact the candidate the help desk. Apologies. You can contact the candidate help desk, and we've got those contact details at the end of the webinar.
Yeah, that's right, Gareth. Now, I'd like to just touch on the voting options available to electors at this upcoming local government election. Again, we do have a full election timetable available to you on our website, but some key dates regarding voting is that pre-poll voting will commence on Saturday the 7th of September, and that telephone assisted voting applications and voting will also commence on Saturday the 7th of September. Declared facility voting will commence from Monday the 9th of September. The pre-poll voting period will close on Friday the 13th of September, as will the telephone assisted voting applications. And then, as we're aware, election day is Saturday the 14th of September. Now, we're going to talk about telephone voting in more detail, Gareth, but the telephone voting, assisted voting will close at 1 p.m. on election day, Saturday the 14th of September. The following voting options will be available to electors. Voting in person before the election, known as pre-poll voting, has eligibility criteria, which does apply. And that includes the declared facility voting, postal voting, telephone voting only for electors who are blind or have low vision, voting in person on election day. And please note that there is no absent voting at local government elections. An elector must vote in the area or ward in which they are enrolled. Internet voting is not available. Now, you can see on the screen figures. Now, these are estimates only that have been provided for your consideration by candidates and parties when you're preparing your campaign, whether that be your production of your electoral material and your candidate workers to attend a venue to assist with the distribution of that material. We estimate close to 40% of electors will cast their vote prior to election day. Projection data is now available on the website for participants that will provide the estimated voter turnout for each voting centre. The information will be of assistance to candidates, parties and third-party campaigners on, again, how many how to vote cards you may require at each voting centre, or, again, allocating those candidate and party workers that I've mentioned. Eligibility criteria for pre-poll and postal voting applies. These include voters who live more than 8 kilometres from where they are able to vote, or will not be in the local government area or ward on election day for which they are enrolled. For example, they may be travelling on that day, or they may have to work on election day, or voters with a disability that prevent them from voting in person or who are seriously ill. A full list of the eligibility criteria for these voting options is available on our website. Pre-poll voting will be available within each council area. The pre-poll voting will start, as I've mentioned, on Saturday the 7th of September and will continue from Monday the 9th of September through till Friday the 13th of September. There is no voting on Sunday. Pre-poll voting will have extended hours on Thursday prior to election day, and pre-poll venues and times will be available on our website. It's important to note that not all pre-poll venues will be open for that 6 days, Gareth. So you'll be able to see on the New South Wales Electoral Commission's website which venues and which days they are open and the opening hours for each venue. Declared facilities may be hospitals, nursing homes, retirement villages or similar facilities. The New South Wales Electoral Commission has contacted these facilities before the election to determine whether they require voting in person at the facility or support with the postal voting process for their residents. Election officials will visit facilities to provide pre-poll voting for their residents. Details of the declared facilities can be obtained from the returning officer for the council, and the returning officer is also able to advise the days and times of the visits. Candidates may appoint a scrutineer to be present when voting takes place. It's important to note that a scrutineer cannot distribute electoral material during the time for which voting is conducted. Now you can see on the screen the key dates for postal voting. The postal vote applications commence today, and eligible electors may apply online. The distribution of postal votes will commence from Monday the 19th of August. Postal vote applications will close at 5 p.m. the 9th of September, and the return of postal votes close at 6 p.m. on the 27th of September. Telephone assisted voting is only available to electors who are blind or have low vision. Eligible electors may apply for telephone assisted voting by calling the New South Wales Electoral Commission and declaring they are eligible to cast this type of vote. Applications are open from Saturday the 7th of September until Friday the 13th of September 2024. Voting is open from Saturday the 7th of September, and as I've mentioned, will close at 1 p.m. election day, Saturday the 14th of September. Polling places will be open on election day from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. Location of polling places and their projections are now available on our website. It's important to note at a local government election there is no absent voting. So Gareth, on election day, voters can only cast their vote in the council or ward for which they are enrolled. So what that means, if the council is undivided, there is no wards, an elector is able to vote at any polling place within the council for which they are enrolled or claiming enrolment. Where the polling place has been deemed to be a multi-council polling place, and that might be a polling place where it is located on or near the boundary of two council areas. It may be deemed to be a multi-polling place, and it may have, electors may attend that polling place from the two council areas. Now, the New South Wales Electoral Commission will provide this information, so when you go on the website and you look up your local government area, it will advise these polling places to you. In the instance your council has wards, it's a divided council, you may vote at any polling place within the ward for which you are enrolled or claiming enrolment. And again, where we have a divided area and the polling place is on the boundary of a ward, so Ward 1 and Ward 2, an elector may be able to vote at a multi-ward polling place. But again, this information will be available to you on our website.
That's right. Electors, when they visit the website, can enter their address and just be given a list of all the places they can vote. So they won't be presented a range of options like this. It's just a list of venues. But we appreciate that for candidates, you want to know where people who are voting in your election will be attending to vote. So you can use the same system to work out where are the multi-wards, where are the multi-council And all that information is available on the website.
Yeah, so where it is a multi-council or a multi-ward, when you view or access those projection files, they will have those venues listed there for you to assist you. Now, Gareth, talking about electoral integrity. We publish the regulatory priorities each year to assist political participants to understand their obligations and to show how and where we will focus our regulatory efforts. The themes of our regulatory priorities are the education to support compliance by political participants, greater transparency to maintain integrity, trust and confidence, and delivering a safe, free and fair election. For example, in relation to the theme of providing education to support compliance by political participants, priority 2 this year is to support privacy by educating authorised recipients of enrolment information about managing personal data securely. Candidates can request a list of electors by completing the candidate request for electronic list of electors. This form is available to you now on the New South Wales Electoral Commission's website. That form contains detailed information about your obligation to protect the personal information of electors by complying with strict limitations and restrictions on the use and disclosure of enrolment information. It also explains that failure to comply with these requirements is an offence that may result in a significant monetary penalty. Currently, the breach is $110,000.
Priority 4 in this year's regulatory priorities is relates to the theme of delivering safe, free and fair elections. Now, among other criminal offences in relation to electoral material, it is an offence to distribute electoral material that contains misleading statements about how to cast a valid vote, or distribute electoral material during the regulated period without the correct authorisation. As we've discussed, that includes on social media, SMS or robocalls. It is also an offence to distribute electoral material that appears to be an official communication from the New South Wales Electoral Commission or to have been authorised by the Commission. So, for example, we have provided information to any political participant considering distributing postal vote applications in the community. And we've noted that they must be clear about who has provided the application and where the applications are being sent. And it must be clear that electors can return their postal vote application directly to us. Priority 5 also relates to delivering safe, free and fair elections. That voting is both safe and free of interference, and that includes for election officials, thousands of whom will only join us to work on the election day. Now, I'm sure many election participants watching today knows that election day is a long day. And you'll be aware of our initiatives to avoid fatigue by ceasing counting at 10 p.m, so that the election officials can leave work by 10:30, many of whom still have a long drive home. Among other laws and offences about conduct in the places that people vote, we've already discussed the 6 metre rule, which is to ensure that people have free access to the polling place. It has also been for some time an offence to hinder or obstruct an election official. This includes verbally abusing or threatening an election official. And also, please note that the New South Wales Government has recently made it an offence to film or photograph an election official if it would be likely to cause that official to be intimidated or harassed.
False information about elections circulating in the community, including through different forms of media, can undermine the confidence in the integrity of democratic processes and have broader consequences for society. To mitigate this risk, we undertake ongoing monitoring of media during the election periods. We focus particularly on managing the negative impacts of disinformation and misinformation posted online about electoral processes. We do not comment on whether claims made by political participants or their supporters about policy issues or other political participants are true or false. Our focus is the integrity of the electoral process. Now, if you do have any questions for us, again, you're just reminded that we are using slido.com, and please enter the hashtag LG elections to ask your questions. Now, Gareth, I can see that we have received a couple of questions. Can I witness the form of people that are part of my group?
Are you an authorised witness? So please refer back to the information we discussed earlier or see the candidate handbook. Only certain people can witness a statutory declaration in New South Wales. We're recommending that that person should be a lawyer, a justice of the peace, or a public notary. A notary public is the correct way to say it. Then you will have no issues with the witnessing of your statutory declaration.
And I think it's important to note that that statutory declaration, while we're giving the advice, Gareth, on who can complete it, that section is completed accurately. So it does ask that you provide the name of your candidate. There's 2 questions that you're able to indicate and you're required to cross out. We require the authoriser's details and also the signature.
Yeah. So if I haven't answered your question, you can witness the other members of your team, your group, other candidates, but you have to be one of those things. You can't just witness it due to that relationship with them as a fellow candidate.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Gareth. So we have a question is, can I also be a nominator for people in my group? So if you're forming a group or lodging a request to form a group on the ballot paper, a candidate within the group can nominate other candidates of their group. It's important to note, however, that you cannot nominate yourself on your nomination. And if you are nominating for a councillor contest for a divided area, and you are not individually enrolled in that ward, you are not eligible to nominate the candidate. So there's 2 sets of rules. To be a candidate in a councillor election for a divided council, you just need to be enrolled in the council. However, if you are nominating for a ward, for example, Ward 1, your nominators have to be enrolled in the Ward 1, for which you are contesting. So you need to make sure that you are enrolled if you're contesting a divided election for that ward to be a nominator of a candidate in that group. With a submitted nomination form, how do I know it has been accepted? So Gareth, lodgements and nominations opened yesterday and we have commenced reviewing each of our nominations. There's a process to the review of each nomination. The roll closed yesterday at 6 p.m. and the non-residential roll will be received. So once we receive the residential roll and the non-residential roll and we have reviewed your nomination, we will communicate with you via email if we have an email address for the New South Wales Electoral Commission's use, or if we find an issue or an item that may need an amendment, you will receive a phone call from us, but we will also again follow that up with an email if we do need a correction to be made.
Yeah, so we have well over 1,000 nominations before the roll was available to confirm that part of your nomination. So if you have submitted your nomination form, there is a period now, once we have the roll, that we're clearing, not a backlog, but to get through all of those people who did nominate early, and we're very grateful for that. And we hope that people watching today continue to get their nominations in as soon as possible.
It's important to note that nominations will not be available or published to our website. I don't anticipate anything will be published to the website until we have received both of those roll products and completed that process in Gareth. So we should start to see nominations progressively updated on our website from Thursday.
Yep.
When will the locations for pre-poll voting be known? The pre-poll venues have been published to the website. The projections are also available to you. And you can find them under Becoming a Candidate, under Electoral Material.
Another question we've received is, on what date can I access the list of electors? And that's after, sorry Amber, that's after you become a candidate formally. And that is on the day after the nominations close, when the returning officer announces you as a candidate. That is the time at which we will process the form that you're seeking that information.
So it's important to note that you need to lodge that request for an electronic list of electors. That's available on our website now. The email address that needs to be forwarded to is included on the form, and as Gareth mentioned, that'll start to be distributed after the candidates are formally announced on Thursday the 15th of August. Now, Gareth, when and how will councils be notified of elected candidates, including contact details, so that orientation and onboarding can commence?
Please refer to, and I'm assuming you're contacting us from a council. Thank you for your question. We do have a council information section on the website and some bulletins we've been sending out. So please contact us and we'll provide a direct response. But the answer to the question is that we can't notify you of the elected candidates until counting can finish. And the close of postal return is the 27th of September, right, I believe. So it's at the start of that next week is when we can actually declare the elections. So we have been saying the 3rd of October, the 4th of October is when all elections will be declared in New South Wales. And it is only then that you would be notified of the elected candidates.
So the webinar that was held, I believe it was last week, for councils went through this information, and as you mentioned, Gareth, the distribution and that declaration of the results for each council, for mayor and each councillor contest won't be completed until the 3rd of October. And again, we have talked about the contact details.
Yeah, but if you send us an email to the candidate help desk, we'll reply with links to all of that information so you can brief your council.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we are holding a series of candidate webinars, Gareth. We're up to our 5th one for political participants. The registration is available for the remaining 3 candidate webinars on our website. We will publish the recording from today's webinar and the questions and answers to our website following today's webinar. We do ask that you register, and we will send you reminders as we near the date for each of these upcoming webinars. Again, for the upcoming candidate workers and scrutineers, we do encourage you invite the people that will be carrying out these functions for you to that webinar so that we can walk through how they can be most effective for you in conducting those functions.
And for the upcoming counting and results webinar, please do refer to that information in the handbook. And then if you have any questions, we'll be able to be prepared for them at that webinar.
Yeah, that's right. And we'll walk through in the counting and results webinar, Gareth, the counting timeline, the venues for which counting will be conducted, and then following election day, the counting timeline, the data entry, and as we've mentioned earlier, that distribution of preferences and the declaration of each of the contests. You can see on the screen support that's currently available to our candidates. We have the candidate help desk currently open and available to you. You're able to contact us on 1300 022 011. The candidate help desk is now available from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday, and is also available on Saturday. So if you do have any inquiries, please do not hesitate to contact us. You can also access or contact us through the Contact Us page of the New South Wales Electoral Commission's website, and you will find information on the New South Wales Electoral Commission's website, and that's been progressively updated as we work our way and near election day. Gareth, we've got no further questions. That brings us to the end of today's webinar. I would like to thank everybody for joining us and for your assistance and questions through today's webinar. But if you do think of anything, please don't hesitate to contact us and we'll be able to get back to you on your inquiries.
Thanks, Amber.
Thanks, Gareth.